Hey everybody, today we're going to draw lightning the easy way. And the important part of that is make sure you draw lightning in the correct order. So in order to draw in our lightning, the first thing we got to do is add in our sky layer. I'm just with a 3B pencil lightly shading in a gray sky here. And then we'll blend that out with our blending stump. I like to use one that already has a lot of graphite in it just to help pull it around a little bit easier. Okay, so we got a good base layer with our 3B pencil. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of darker clouds up here. So with this 5B pencil, this layer here is really kind of the bottom side of that cloud where our lightning is going to come out from. And we'll just blend those. I'm leaving this area a little brighter in our cloud. That'll make more sense as we put in our lightning bolt. Let's add a little bit more to the bottom of our drawing here, just so I have a little bit more room to put in our lightning bolt. We need to get our sky in order here though, because we're going to erase our lightning bolts in over the top. Now that we have darker values, we can create that contrast of highlights in our lightning bolt. If you were to add in darker values after, it's going to be much harder to get a smoother sky, because then you're going to have to dodge and maneuver all those secondary and really skinny lightning bolts we're putting in, and we don't want to have to work that hard. Okay, now let's get to the fun part, which is putting in the actual lightning bolts. And for that, I'm going to use my Sumo Grip electric eraser. This is my favorite eraser. I pretty much use it in every drawing session. If you want this exact one, I'll put a link down in the description. And I'll also put a link to where you can buy the extra spare erasers, which you're going to want. Any purchases from those links, I will make a small commission, but all that goes back to support my channel, which I appreciate very much. The other thing you're going to need here is a piece of sandpaper. This is 80 grit sandpaper. Anything in that neighborhood will work. Because what we're going to do is sharpen the tip of our eraser here by just angling it and pushing down on our sandpaper until you get a nice tip on it. Now this first lightning bolt we're going to put in is like the primary main one, which is a little bit thicker. So the spot that's not quite as dark here, that's where I want my lightning bolt to begin. I left this like this because as the lightning bolt shoots out of this cloud, the light from it is going to highlight that area of our dark clouds. So what I'm going to do is very carefully erase in our lightning bolt. Some tips when you're erasing your lightning bolts here, you want to go slow, but don't leave your eraser in the same spot for too long. If you need to pause, lift your eraser off of the paper, otherwise your lightning bolt is going to get too thick. Number 2, sharpen your eraser on your sandpaper frequently. You don't want your eraser to get too dull, otherwise your line's going to get too thick. Number 3, try to hold your electric eraser as vertical as possible, so you're really just having that tip erase, and the harder you push down, the faster your eraser is going to get worn down. So try to just apply as little pressure as needed to erase your lightning bolt. And if you need to go back over an area, in addition to sharpening your eraser, try doing just little dabs so you don't erase too much. But notice I lift the eraser off the paper frequently, and I try not to hold it in the same spot for too long because I don't want my eraser to take off too much. And in spots that I want to go back and touch up, I'm just kind of doing little dabs and lifting off the paper quickly, because again, I don't want to lift too much off the paper. We're going to add one more right here just for kicks. Notice I'm coming out of this same lighter strip here. Okay, so with our 3 primary lightning bolts in good shape, we're going to add in some secondary, even thinner lightning bolts here using the same technique. But the big thing here is we want to keep our eraser extra sharp, so we'll sharpen that even more often. And at this point, you want to almost barely be touching the paper as you erase. You want to be really careful on all your little zigzags. I'm barely touching the paper, and I'm actually lifting up quite often on these little lines. Make sure to keep your electric eraser as vertical as possible. Sharpen even more often. This electric eraser is so good, I'm just barely touching the paper and it takes off just a thin, fine bolt. You can still go over little areas if you need to. Just do, again, little taps. So just keep adding as many of these secondary lightning bolts as you want until you're happy, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now what I'm going to do is connect them up to our cloud layer. And as I mentioned earlier, I have this slightly lighter band here because in nature, as lightning bolts shoot through the clouds, some of that light then reflects back into the clouds. So these areas should all have lighter values. So where this bolt comes out from our cloud, I'm just going to add a little bit of highlight back in. And we're going to do the same over here. And be random and loose with this. If you're looking at a reference image, again, that's going to help you out. Same with this eraser. If you need to clean it off, I just use a piece of sandpaper. And I like it also because it will leave your eraser a little bit rough. And that again will add to your randomness and your texture. Just be really subtle, go slow here. Just some small little hints of some light back here. Now you can still see where my lightning bolt started, but kind of like the sun, right around the sun you get that bright halo. You should not really be able to distinguish the top of our lightning bolts here. So with my electric eraser, you just want to hide the top of that lightning bolt ever so slightly. But let's just say you did accidentally erase too much. Just go back with your 5B pencil and your blending stump and just very subtly shade that back in. Or if you want to continue work on your clouds up here isn't a problem if you need to further refine your cloud. But down here where our lightning bolts are, if I wanted to have a smooth sky, I can't blend smoothly because I'd have to dodge all of the lightning bolts that we just erased in. So that's why drawing that base layer of your sky first is so critical. I'm going to add a couple more lightning bolts in the distance here, but remember our perspective. These lightning bolts that are near the top of our sketch, these are actually closer, and lightning bolts in the distance are going to be down further. We're keeping the same technique we used on our skinny secondary lightning bolts before, where we're sharpening the eraser often and just barely touching the paper. So on these lightning bolts in the distance, again, we want to have some light in the clouds, but since they're so much further away, these are going to be really small. And we're just going to do a sort of a little smudgy circle. So with our lightning bolts and sky in order, I'm just going to add a little foreground down here of a tree line. So you can see how important drawing this is in the right order. If I drew my foreground in first, I wouldn't get all these little bits of the lightning shining through without having to do a lot more work. But since we saved our foreground to the end, I don't really even have to think about anything besides just drawing in these trees how I would normally. And so there you go. There's how you draw lightning the easy way. This drawing tutorial for lightning came in by request. If you ever need help with any of your landscape or wildlife drawings, feel free to drop them down in the comments.